Good morning. Today is November 11, 2019, 9:15 a.m. Abu Dhabi time. Now I'll be sharing this to everyone. So, because most CFA candidates memorize the formula without really understanding. Let's say G. What is G? Sustainable growth rate. So they just plug and play, right? They use plug and play method. So if they're given retention ratio, and then we'll just multiply it by ROE, return on equity. No big deal. You can memorize it. It's a small formula. But doing this, you're not really learning. I mean, it's not about just passing the exam. It's about, understanding what you're doing. Right? Let's say, anyone can be a programmer. Right? Anyone can code. But, do you understand what you're coding? Does it make sense? Right? Say, for example, I worked in Big Four, and people in the office are doing, some data analytics, and then they just run the software, run the code, and they get the results. But the results may not be accurate because the data is not. Data is garbage. You need to do some data cleansing. You have to remove some abnormalities. You have to what do you call this? You have to normalize the data. So having the right attitude, I think, is more important than passing the exam. Just learn it properly. Don't just memorize. So I'm not saying I'm smart. But I'm trying to break it down so it will be easier. So let's say if you manage to break down the retention ratio, the growth rate, blah blah blah. So I'm sure you can easily dissect let's say the Black-Scholes Merton model. I know there's you need calculus there, you have to derive, but you have to make sense of the formula. So it will be easier. So this will help in long-term retention. Because anyone can learn. Let's say I will study a material today, and then I will learn. And then after 1 hour, after 24 hours, I will forget about it. Because I don't understand what's going on. So now, enough of the talk. Dividend payout ratio. What is dividend payout ratio? So if I use logic, so dividends per share over earnings per share. Let's say dividend payout, the amount of dividends that will be paid. Okay? So let's say I have losses, net loss. Can I declare dividend? Yeah, you can if you want. No one will stop you. But, I mean, any sensible person will not declare dividends if you're incurring losses or if your earnings is not that high. Say your target is, say, 60% growth. Right? You're projecting, let's say, my net profit will increase by 60%. So if I meet the target or exceed the target, I might declare dividend. I mean, not me, the board of directors will declare dividends. They will decide on it. So dividends will be paid if there is net income. So dividends over net income. So just drop the per share, right? Dividend per share, earnings per share. Drop the per share, it's common. So it's dividend over net income. Earnings per share is net income attributable to common equity divided by weighted average common shares outstanding. Fine. If you have no preferred equity, can we say EPS, earnings per share, is equal to net income, right? We don't have to deduct preferred here, net income less preferred dividends. What I'm saying is, if you don't have preferred equity, you will have net income only. Correct? And then divided by weighted number of shares, common shares outstanding, or WACs. So again, if we drop the WACs, the number of shares, here, so we'll have DPS, dividend per. No, this is not DPS. This is DPR. Let me edit it. I'm so sorry. DPR. Okay. Dividend payout ratio is equal to dividends over net income. Done. End of story. Now, how about retention ratio? Retention ratio is the portion of net income attributable to common equity that is retained in the business. It means, say I earned 100 million, right? And I paid out, let's say, 40 million. So 60 million, let's say we don't have preferred equity here. So the remaining amount is in your retained earnings. It is reinvested in the business. Automatically, if you don't get it out, if you don't pay out dividends, it will remain in the business. It means whatever net income not distributed are reinvested. So retention ratio, the formula in the textbooks will be RR, retention ratio, equals 1 minus dividend payout ratio. So let's make sense of it. Retention ratio. If I say net income over net income, let's say I have net income 100 million over 100 million. That is equal to 1. Let's say I declared dividends, I paid dividends 40 out of the 100. And then how much was retained in the business? 60 over 100. So we'll see 1 minus, this is 1 minus 40% equals 60%. So this is nothing but retained earnings over net income. This is retention ratio. Easy. Sustainable growth rate. The amount of earnings attributable to common equity that is reinvested to the company in the business to grow the earnings. So this is amount. Let's say we don't have preferred equity, to simplify things. The amount of earnings attributable to common equity, this was not distributed, so it means it is reinvested, retained in the business, retained earnings. So the formula in the book, or most textbooks, or CFA Institute, or whatever, G is equal to RR, retention ratio, times ROE. Now, understand that retention ratio, we have it here, retained earnings over net income, which I write here. And then, if you hear about the word return, let's say return on asset, return on equity, automatically, this is for non-CPAs or non-accountants, say engineers or biologists. Okay, net income is the numerator. Return on equity. Equity is your base. Return on asset. Net income numerator. Asset denominator. On. After the word on is your base. So if you multiply, what is our retained earnings here? Okay, you have 60 over 100. 60 over 100. Let's say my return on equity, say I have 15%. This is 60%. times 15%. So we'll notice, oh sorry, this is wrong. Say this is 100. Let me calculate it quickly. 100 divided by 0.15. I'm just making up numbers here. 666. Let me make it 500. 100 over 500 is 20%. Made up number. Okay. So you'll notice here that you will be able to cancel this and this. Right? Net income. You'll cancel this. And then all you're left with is 60 over 500. If you use your calculator, 60 over 500 is 12%. 12% is your G. 60 times 0.2, 12%. Perfect. Clear. So in the end, the sustainable growth rate is nothing but retained earnings over equity. How much you retain in the business? 60, right? Which is this one, 60. Here as well, 60. 100 net income attributable to common minus dividends paid to common. Let's assume preferred equity doesn't exist in the company. Of 60. And then our equity in our balance sheet is 500. So how much we have? 60 over 500. So retained earnings over equity. This is simply your G. Because you're reinvesting that money that is not distributed to common equity, to the business, to grow it. So I hope I simplified it. I know it's simple already, so I made it more intuitive.